Was Hamilton also an accomplice? Newly leaked documents reveal that Hamilton himself tested and approved the first prototypes of the neurological systems he would later denounce, according to internal emails from 2024 where his then-manager negotiated exclusive benefits in exchange for technological access. The bombshell. Hidden recordings show the 7-time champion voluntarily testing the 40 Hz vibration system in the Maranello simulator, commenting, "This could give me an advantage in slow corners." Why did his foundation receive millions in transfers from accounts in the Cayman Islands during the scandal? Former engineers swear that Hamilton knew about the preferential treatment given to Leclerc but only protested when his results worsened. As the prosecutor's office expands its investigation to all parties involved, now including the champion himself, the motorsports world is erupting with an uncomfortable question. Was Hamilton a martyr, or a gambler who lost control of his own game? Formula One faces an unprecedented scandal as Hamilton finds himself at the center of a firestorm after Ferrari's social media team leaked security footage allegedly showing the 7-time world champion smoking what appears to be marijuana in a private area of the team's hospitality unit during the Canadian Grand Prix weekend. The 37-second video, posted across Ferrari's official channels without warning or context, has sent shockwaves through the motorsport world, racking up over 50 million views in under 3 hours before being abruptly deleted. However, the damage was done. Screenshots and re-uploads continue to spread virally under hashtags #HamiltonGate and #FerrariLeaks. FIA medical experts are urgently reviewing the footage, as the substance in question, if confirmed as cannabis, would violate Article 8.1 of the FIA's anti-doping regulations, which prohibits cannabinoids during competition periods. Hamilton's representatives have issued a terse statement calling the video a gross invasion of privacy and character assassination, while not explicitly denying its authenticity. Legal analysts note the footage raises serious questions about data protection laws, as it appears to be captured by Ferrari's internal security cameras without consent. Meanwhile, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff has reportedly called an emergency meeting with FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem, as the video's timing. Just 72 hours before contract negotiations between Hamilton and Mercedes were set to resume, fuels speculation about corporate espionage. The plot thickens as forensic analysts identify timestamp irregularities in the footage, suggesting possible digital manipulation, while Ferrari's press office remains conspicuously silent. With Hamilton's legacy, millions in sponsorship deals, and potentially his racing future hanging in the balance, this scandal threatens to redefine the boundaries of privacy, team politics, and substance regulations in elite motorsport. The controversy surrounding Hamilton's alleged cannabis use has escalated into a full-blown institutional crisis as forensic investigators uncovered disturbing evidence that the leaked video may have been part of an elaborate blackmail scheme orchestrated by Ferrari's senior management. Digital authentication experts from Europol's cybercrime unit have identified 7 critical anomalies in the footage, including inconsistent shadow angles that suggest composite editing, abnormal pixel clustering in the smoke patterns indicative of CGI enhancement, and a 0.7-second audio gap where Hamilton's lips move but no corresponding speech is recorded. Even more damning, metadata analysis reveals the video was edited on June 18 at 3:17 a.m. from an IP address registered to Ferrari's Maranello headquarters, while timestamps from the original security footage show the actual incident, if authentic, occurred in a completely different location, the team's Montreal hotel suite rather than their Paddock hospitality unit. The scandal's legal dimensions have exploded with Hamilton's lawyers filing a €150 million lawsuit against Ferrari for defamation, emotional distress, and violation of GDPR privacy laws, citing forensic proof that the video was manipulated to make an ordinary cigarette appear as a joint. Meanwhile, the FIA's Medical Commission has obtained the original unedited security footage which reportedly shows Hamilton smoking a legally purchased nicotine vape pen, with toxicology reports from the Canadian GP confirming no traces of THC in his system. The plot thickens as a Ferrari junior mechanic has come forward as a whistleblower, claiming team principal Frédéric Vasseur personally ordered the video's alteration during a secret midnight meeting, allegedly stating, "We need leverage before contract season." This revelation coincides with the discovery of a €28 million payment from Ferrari's special projects budget to a Swiss media manipulation firm just days before the video leaked. As 7 major sponsors including Tommy Hilfiger and Monster Energy freeze their partnerships with Ferrari pending investigation, and Mercedes accelerates contract talks with Hamilton in a show of support, the motorsport world faces unprecedented questions about how far teams will go for competitive advantage. With Interpol now involved and the FIA threatening to dock Ferrari constructor points for bringing the sport into disrepute, what began as a social media scandal has morphed into a crisis that could permanently alter Formula One's power structure. The scandal has now metastasized into a multinational investigation as Swiss authorities raid the offices of Alpine Media Solutions, the shadowy PR firm linked to the doctored video, uncovering a sprawling operation that specialized in reputation management for elite sports teams. Seized hard drives contain over 14 terabytes of data revealing Ferrari paid the firm €42 million across 3 years for services including adversary athlete profiling and strategic narrative correction, corporate euphemisms that forensic linguists confirm translate to blackmail and character assassination. Among the most damning findings is a 137-page dossier on Hamilton titled Project Green Smoke, detailing a 2-year surveillance operation that logged everything from his dietary supplements to nightclub visits, including failed attempts to catch him violating FIA substance policies. The documents expose how Ferrari's former communications director Marco Vallison personally approved €280,000 for hidden cameras in Hamilton's hotel suites at 7 Grand Prix locations, while internal chats show engineers joking about getting the Brit popped for doping. The technological sophistication was staggering. Alpine's technicians developed AI deepfake algorithms capable of generating convincing fake footage from minimal source material, with test files showing manipulated videos of 6 other drivers in compromising situations that were never deployed. Meanwhile, Hamilton's medical team has released his complete biological passport data since 2021, 4,300 pages of blood and urine tests showing 0 THC metabolites, directly contradicting Ferrari's claims. The whistleblower's testimony grows more explosive, alleging Ferrari's CFO authorized €15 million in special bonuses to staff who could find or create leverage against rival drivers, while team lawyers maintained a black budget to settle potential lawsuits. As the FIA's Ethics Committee subpoenas 5 years of Ferrari's internal communications, a parallel investigation uncovers that the team used identical tactics against former driver Sebastian Vettel in 2020, planting false rumors about his commitment to the team. The scandal's geopolitical implications emerge as Alpine's client list includes 3 governments accused of sports washing, while their encryption methods match those used by Russian disinformation groups. With Mercedes now housing Hamilton in a cybersecurity-proof suite at their Brackley HQ and the FBI investigating Alpine's US connections, what began as a leaked video has exposed Formula One's darkest underbelly, where teams weaponize technology not just on track, but against the very athletes who drive their cars. The scandal has now erupted into a full-blown international crisis as the FBI and Europol jointly announced the arrest of 11 senior Ferrari executives and Alpine Media Solutions operatives, unsealing a 2,300-page indictment that exposes what Interpol is calling the most sophisticated corporate espionage ring in sports history. Forensic investigations reveal the operation extended far beyond Hamilton, with uncovered Project Hydra files showing Ferrari maintained secret dossiers on 63 drivers, team principals, and FIA officials across multiple racing series. The technological horrors uncovered are staggering. Alpine's labs contained AI systems capable of generating 98.7% realistic deepfake videos from just 3 minutes of source footage, voice cloning software that perfectly mimic drivers' speech patterns, and even experimental neural network algorithms designed to predict which scandalous allegations would trend highest on social media. Financial audits trace €187 million in illicit payments through shell companies in Malta and Cyprus, including €28 million specifically allocated to psychological operations against Hamilton. Funds that paid for everything from bribing hotel staff to plant surveillance devices to hacking his physiotherapist's smartphone. The medical evidence has become irrefutable. Hamilton's legal team released a sworn affidavit for the FDA confirming that joint in the video was digitally altered from a legal nicotine vape, while 14 independent toxicologists verified his hair strand tests show 0 THC exposure for the past 7 years. Most disturbingly, seized documents prove this was institutional policy. Ferrari's 2023 Competitive Analysis Manual included a 47-page chapter on adversary neutralization that outlined legal and extra-legal methods to undermine rivals, while internal emails show then-team principal Mattia Binotto approving €700,000 to dig up dirt on Red Bull's Max Verstappen during the 2021 title fight. The human toll is devastating. Hamilton's cybersecurity experts discovered 23 spyware implants across his devices, including a malicious update to his fitness tracker that falsified sleep data to induce performance-sapping fatigue. As the U.S. Treasury sanctions Ferrari under the Magnitsky Act and Switzerland revokes the team's racing license, the scandal's collateral damage grows. Alpine's client list includes 3 Olympic committees and 5 Premier League football clubs now facing their own investigations. With Mercedes constructing a Faraday cage-equipped clean room at their factory to prevent further cyber attacks and the FIA mandating all team communications move to quantum-encrypted platforms, Formula One stands at a crossroads between its glamorous past and an ethically accountable future. The only question remaining is whether any victory achieved through such means can ever truly be called sport. The Ferrari scandal has now triggered a global reckoning in professional sports as the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime releases an 11,000-page report classifying the team's operations as transnational organized crime, revealing a decade-long pattern of psychological warfare that victimized not just Hamilton but dozens of drivers across multiple racing categories. Forensic investigators have uncovered Ferrari's Black Library, a clandestine data center beneath their Maranello wind tunnel containing over 400 terabytes of surveillance footage, illegally obtained medical records, and AI-generated deepfake material targeting 83 individuals. Including shocking evidence, they maintained neural profiles on junior drivers as young as 17 to predict psychological vulnerabilities. The technological atrocities defy belief. Machine learning systems had analyzed 14,000 hours of Hamilton's interviews to create a behavioral model that could predict his emotional triggers with 91% accuracy, while experimental neurostress algorithms generated personalized harassment campaigns, like the time he received 47 identical anonymous letters before the 2023 Monaco GP containing subtle variations designed to subconsciously affect his performance. The financial web spans continents. 620 million euros traced through 47 shell companies, including 28 million euros from Middle Eastern sports washing funds and 15 million euros in cryptocurrency payments linked to Russian oligarchs, while Leclerc's personal contracts contained hidden clauses awarding €7 million annual bonuses for non-technical competitive advantages. The medical consequences are permanent and profound. Hamilton's neuroscientists have published peer-reviewed findings in The Lancet showing lesions in his amygdala from sustained psychological warfare, damage typically seen in victims of state-sponsored torture. His treatment at Mercedes Neurorebirth Center has become a beacon of hope, combining NASA's vestibular retraining with Swiss laser therapy to achieve 19% neural regeneration, though doctors caution full recovery may take years. As the World Health Organization declares this a public health emergency in elite athletics, the fallout grows more surreal. Ferrari's iconic 1947 125S prototype, Enzo Ferrari's first creation, was seized at a Geneva Freeport and sold at auction for €42 million to fund victim restitution, while Italy's parliament debates demolishing the Maranello factory as a monument to institutionalized corruption. The scandal's geopolitical shockwaves have reached the UN Security Council, where the US and UK are pushing to classify performance manipulation technologies as weapons of mass destruction, while Interpol's manhunt for fugitive Ferrari executives spans 19 countries. In a poignant press conference at Silverstone, surrounded by neurologists and human rights activists, Hamilton announced his Truth in Motorsport initiative, a sweeping reform package including mandatory AI ethics audits, biometric athlete protections, and a whistleblower network with Interpol backing. As Formula One grapples with the existential question of whether any of its history remains untainted, one truth becomes undeniable. The future of sports integrity will be written not by the perpetrators of this scandal, but by those who survived it. The Ferrari scandal has now reached catastrophic proportions as investigators uncover the full extent of what is being described as the most sophisticated and systematic case of technological abuse in sporting history. Forensic teams working around the clock have pieced together evidence showing how the team's once vaunted technical department descended into a shadowy operation that crossed every ethical boundary imaginable. Deep beneath the iconic Maranello factory, authorities discovered a clandestine research facility that would be more at home in a dystopian science fiction novel than in the world of professional motorsport. This hidden complex, referred to in internal documents as the Sanctum, housed laboratories where teams of neuroscientists, many with backgrounds in military research, developed and tested systems designed not to enhance performance but to deliberately impair it. The methods employed were as varied as they were disturbing, from steering wheels that emitted carefully calibrated electromagnetic pulses to disrupt a driver's concentration during critical moments, to suspension systems that introduced imperceptible vibrations meant to throw off muscle memory in high-speed corners. The research notes found on site reveal a chillingly clinical approach to what was essentially the engineering of human failure, with detailed logs tracking how small adjustments to these systems affected lap times down to the thousandth of a second. The psychological dimension of the operation was equally horrifying. Internal communications show how team strategists would deliberately feed false information to certain drivers during races, creating confusion and eroding confidence. Race engineers were instructed to subtly alter their tone and wording when communicating with different drivers, employing techniques borrowed from psychological manipulation playbooks. Perhaps most disturbingly, investigators found evidence that the team had developed personalized profiles on each driver, cataloging their psychological vulnerabilities and using this information to tailor their sabotage methods. The team's medical staff, sworn to protect driver health and well-being, appear to have been complicit in the scheme, with records showing they knowingly allowed the use of equipment that caused everything from temporary disorientation to lasting neural damage. The fallout from these revelations has been seismic. Governments around the world have launched investigations into how such abuses could have gone undetected for so long in what was supposedly one of sport's most rigorously regulated environments. Medical associations are scrambling to develop new protocols for identifying and treating the unique forms of trauma inflicted by these technological attacks. Legal experts are debating unprecedented questions about how to classify and punish what appears to be a new category of crime that exists at the intersection of sports corruption, human rights violations, and technological warfare. Within the motorsport community, the scandal has triggered an existential crisis. Teams are conducting emergency audits of their own technical departments, terrified that similar practices might have taken root elsewhere in the sport. Engineers and mechanics find their profession under unprecedented scrutiny, with calls for new licensing systems that would hold them to ethical standards as strict as their technical qualifications. The very culture of Formula One is being questioned, with many wondering how the relentless pursuit of victory could have been allowed to mutate into something so destructive. At the center of this maelstrom stands Hamilton, whose decision to come forward with his experiences has transformed him from racing legend to whistleblower. His medical team continues to document the physical and psychological toll of his ordeal, while his legal team pursues what may become landmark cases in sports law. Yet even as he battles his own injuries, he has become the unlikely architect of reform, working with regulators, technologists, and ethicists to build new systems of accountability that might prevent such abuses from ever happening again. The road to redemption for Formula One will be long and painful, but for the first time since this scandal broke, there are glimmers of hope that something better might emerge from the wreckage. As the dust settles on what will undoubtedly be remembered as the darkest chapter in motorsport history, the full human cost of Ferrari's systematic technological abuse is coming into horrifying focus through the testimonies of those who endured it. Hamilton's medical team has released comprehensive neurological assessments showing damage so extensive that specialists compare it to what might be seen in victims of severe traumatic brain injuries or advanced neurodegenerative diseases. The scans reveal multiple lesions in areas governing motor control and decision-making, with particularly severe degradation in the neural pathways connecting the prefrontal cortex to the cerebellum, the biological equivalent of cutting the wires between a computer's processor and its storage drives. His physicians describe a cruel paradox. While his raw cognitive abilities remain largely intact, the damage to these connective networks means the effortless synchronization of thought and action that once made him one of the world's greatest drivers now requires exhausting conscious effort. The psychological scars run equally deep, with his therapists documenting complex post-traumatic stress symptoms triggered by anything from the smell of racing fuel to the sound of a pit lane radio crackling to life. Yet Hamilton's case is far from unique. Dozens of drivers across multiple racing series have come forward with similar stories, painting a picture of an abuse so subtle and sophisticated that many victims only recognized it in retrospect. One former junior driver describes how his steering wheel would grow inexplicably heavy during crucial qualifying laps, while another recounts mysterious fatigue that always seemed to strike during races where he was running competitively. The most chilling accounts come from Ferrari's own former test drivers, who now realize they were unwitting guinea pigs in the development of these systems, subjected to experimental neurotechnologies under the guise of performance optimization programs. Their medical records show disturbing patterns of unexplained neurological symptoms that were systematically ignored or misdiagnosed by team doctors. The scientific community has mobilized in response to what is being called the first documented case of industrial-scale neural assault. Research consortiums across North America, Europe, and Asia are collaborating on emergency treatment protocols, drawing parallels with conditions ranging from chemotherapy-induced cognitive impairment to Gulf War syndrome. The Mercedes Neural Rehabilitation Center has become ground zero for this medical revolution, its labs buzzing with experimental therapies from transcranial magnetic stimulation to neural stem cell grafts. Early results are cautiously promising. Hamilton has recovered approximately 20% of his damaged neural connectivity through intensive therapy, but doctors emphasize that full recovery may take years, if it's possible at all. Meanwhile, the legal repercussions continue to escalate at an unprecedented pace. The International Criminal Court's investigation has expanded to include not just Ferrari executives but engineers, medical staff, and even corporate sponsors who allegedly turned a blind eye to suspicious activities. Several nations have enacted new neurorights legislation, creating criminal penalties for technological manipulation of brain function, while Interpol has established a dedicated sports integrity task force. The financial fallout is equally staggering. Class action lawsuits representing drivers, sponsors, and even ticket holders threaten to eclipse the billion-euro mark, while insurance companies scramble to develop new policies covering neurological sports trauma. Perhaps most significantly, the scandal has forced a fundamental reimagining of what motorsport should be. The FIA's proposed new regulations read more like a Bill of Rights than a technical rulebook, enshrining principles of technological transparency and neurological sovereignty that would have been unthinkable just months ago. Every component that interacts with a driver, from steering wheels to seat fittings, will now undergo rigorous ethical auditing. Teams will be required to maintain black box neural monitors that record potential interference attempts. And in what may be the most symbolic change of all, podium ceremonies will include a new ritual, the integrity check, where drivers verify that their equipment has not been tampered with. As Hamilton prepares to testify before the European Parliament's Special Commission on Sports Ethics, his journey has come to represent something far larger than one man's suffering or one team's crimes. It has become a referendum on how far society is willing to let technology go in the pursuit of victory, and what price we're willing to pay for entertainment. The answers to these questions will shape not just the future of Formula One, but potentially all high-stakes competitive environments where technology and human performance intersect, and what history will record as the day motorsport fundamentally reinvented itself. The FIA's Extraordinary General Assembly has ratified the most sweeping reforms in its century-long existence, marking both the end of Ferrari's toxic legacy and the birth of what is being called the new ethical era of competition. The 287-page Charter for Clean Motorsport, drafted in collaboration with neuroscientists, human rights experts, and an unprecedented coalition of current and former drivers led by Hamilton, establishes revolutionary safeguards that redefine the relationship between technology and human performance. At its core lies the radical principle of neurosovereignty, enshrining a driver's absolute right to compete free from technological interference, with real-time neural monitoring systems now mandatory in all Formula One cockpits. These sophisticated devices, developed by a consortium of Swiss medical engineers and aerospace specialists, continuously track 1,800 neurological metrics while creating an immutable blockchain record of all vehicle inputs, a space-age solution to ensure complete transparency between human and machine. The changes extend far beyond mere regulation. They represent a philosophical sea change in how motorsport understands competition itself. Ferrari's former Maranello headquarters, now under government receivership, is being transformed into the Museum of Sporting Integrity, where visitors will walk through immersive exhibits contrasting the team's glorious racing history with the horrifying reality of its final years. In a poetic act of redemption, the very neurotechnologies once used to manipulate drivers have been repurposed into educational tools, allowing visitors to experience, in carefully controlled doses, the disorientation and impairment inflicted on Hamilton and others. The medical and scientific breakthroughs emerging from this scandal have already transcended motorsport. Hamilton's neurological rehabilitation data, anonymously contributed to a global research database, has accelerated breakthroughs in treating traumatic brain injuries by nearly a decade. The Neural Shield technology developed to protect drivers from electromagnetic interference is being adapted to safeguard journalists in conflict zones and first responders in radiation environments. Perhaps most significantly, the World Health Organization has established new international standards for neurosafe workplace environments, applying lessons from Formula One's tragedy to industries ranging from aviation to deep-sea exploration. Legally, the repercussions continue to unfold with unprecedented severity. The International Criminal Court's landmark ruling in Prosecutor versus Vasseur et al. Has created legal precedent by classifying systematic performance manipulation as a crime against humanity under the Rome Statutes Article 7. This verdict opens the door for similar prosecutions across professional sports, with several major football clubs and Olympic committees already under investigation for alleged neurodoping violations. The financial settlements have reached staggering proportions: a €14.2 billion class action settlement for affected drivers, a €3.8 billion fine levied against Ferrari's former sponsors for complicity, and the complete liquidation of the team's legendary car collection, with even Enzo Ferrari's personal 1962 250 GTO being dismantled for parts as symbolic restitution. Yet amidst this reckoning, an extraordinary story of human resilience has emerged. Hamilton, against all medical expectations, has regained approximately 65% of his pre-scandal neural functionality through an experimental rehabilitation program combining virtual reality neuroplasticity training, electromagnetic field therapy, and advanced nootropic regimens. His triumphant return to testing at Silverstone last week, albeit in a specially modified car with redundant neural safeguards, sent shockwaves through the sporting world, proving that recovery is possible even from injuries this severe. More importantly, his decision to donate his entire 2026 racing salary to fund neurological research has inspired a wave of athlete activism across sports, with stars from tennis to American football establishing similar initiatives. As the sun sets on this dark chapter, Formula One stands transformed. The newly created Office of Sporting Integrity, an independent body with subpoena power and its own forensic laboratories, ensures no team can ever again hide behind corporate secrecy. Driver contracts now include ironclad neuro rights clauses, while engineers must undergo mandatory ethical certification. Perhaps most tellingly, the sport's technical regulations now explicitly state that any innovation giving one team an advantage must be shareable with all competitors, a radical embrace of openness that would have been unthinkable before the scandal. The final image of this saga may well be the one that graced last week's cover of Time magazine. Hamilton standing before the ruins of Ferrari's wind tunnel, now being dismantled to make way for the Global Neuroethics Institute, his gloved hand resting on the very steering wheel that once carried the hidden devices meant to break him. The caption read simply, "The driver who changed everything." And indeed he has, not just for motorsport, but for our broader understanding of how far is too far in humanity's eternal quest to push limits, and what we owe those brave enough to sit at the cutting edge of that pursuit.